Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Talking Acquisition. This is the weekly high-energy, informative, and ever so slightly opinionated view on all things acquisition, procurement, and government contracting related. This is the place where the contracting community, the acquisition community, and our industry partners connect, talk, listen, and learn from each other. My name is William Randolph, and I am your host for today. And I'd like to introduce my co-host, my colleague, my partner, and my dear friend, Soraya Carrera. Hello, Soraya.
Hello, Will Randolph. How are you today?
I am well. I am so happy to have this opportunity to get together in front of GCMS.
I'm excited. I'm excited by the opportunity, and I think we've picked a great topic that ties perfectly into GCMS's agenda. So let's get this party going.
Awesome.
Start with our podcast disclaimer, which people are probably sick and tired of hearing, but they will hear every single week because that's the right thing to do. So anyway, our podcast shares information and views on a variety of topics that impact the federal acquisition community. Our goal is to provide thought leadership and perspective, not to criticize, judge, or render political opinions, although some might slip out. We provide this free service because we are former federal acquisition professionals and leaders. We believe that the creativity, innovation, and effectiveness of our community is unleashed when we share knowledge, information, and learning. We hope you enjoy our podcast, and we welcome the views and comments of our colleagues across the private and public sectors. So, Will, how about you introduce our topic today?
All right. So one of the main themes, one of the overarching themes of GCMS 2021 is talking about the future 2025. What could that look like? What are the demand signals? What is the work? What is the spin? What are all the aspects of what that future could look like? We talked a little bit, and we think there's a sliver of that future 2025 that is going to be of critical importance, and that we'd like to spend our time focused on that. And that is the workforce of future 2025. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think that we need to look at how we hire, how we recruit, how we hire, how we manage. And I don't like to say manage, I tend to say enable and empower our employees. And then how we evaluate their performance, how we help them grow and develop. I think performance evaluation is not just about telling you what you did over the last 12 months. It's really about telling you how you can continue to move forward, how you can continue to grow and develop. So I think we have to rethink some of those norms. What are going to be the qualifications of the future contract specialist? What is going to be the expectation of what they need to know, what they need to understand, how they need to behave, how they need to execute on their work? So let's get into that. If you don't mind,
Awesome.
I'd love to lead off a little bit.
All right, let's do it.
Some of the qualification requirements.
And
when I talk about the qualification requirements, I'm not talking about the certification requirements, right? The procurement training. Of course, they're going to need their procurement training.
Right.
Of course, they're going to need to know how to read and interpret the FAR and understand, the protest process and understand what comes out of protests, right? How those decisions impact the procurement process, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that I'm putting that aside. I don't care about that. That we're going to do that. I care about those special skills that you have to be in this business, to develop and grow in this business, and to engage with your customers and help them build requirements. So the first qualification that I think about is the ability to communicate and how you communicate, right? I often have said to contract specialists, we need to hear ourselves. We need to hear ourselves the way the customers hear us. And I used to often say to people, if you're quoting the FAR, if you bring up the FAR in the conversation, you just lost the customer.
Yeah.
But it's not that they don't care. I guess I shouldn't say it that way. It's that that's not what their focus is. Their focus is their mission, their requirement, what they need to get done. So you got to be talking to them in those terms. So communication, essential. I think our contract specialists of the future have to be good at collaborating, teamwork, bringing people together to have the conversation, listening to the different points of view and being kind of arbitrators of those points of view. That's really the role of a contract specialist is to be the leader, the lead negotiator. I
Yep.
think we're going to have a lot of understanding of how we comply with the regulations, right? How we read, interpret those regulations, how we use the flexibilities that are available to us through the FAR to ensure compliance and customer service. We have to deliver on that mission. That's it. Bottom line. We're not buying for the sake of buying. In fact, we don't even have money to buy. By the way, we're still on a continuing resolution that expires December 3rd, but don't let me go off on that tangent. But anyway, customer service, right? Gotta have the ability to deliver, understand how compliance and delivery work. And then I think more than ever, it becomes extremely important that we understand two things that heretofore, I think people thought were really technical or programmatic issues, but they really are affecting the procurement community quite a bit. First, supply chain. We have to understand the supply chain. We are holders of that supply chain to a certain extent because we're doing the purchase, right? That's one. Second one, cybersecurity. A very important topic, cybersecurity. We have to bake that into everything that we're doing. We have to partner with our IT experts and our security experts to ensure we're baking that into the procurements. It's essential to
Love it.
I
love it. I love it. So Soraya, you touched on a lot of the themes that are kind of interwoven in a few of mine. I'm going to go try to go at the top level. Just like culture, I think the workforce has to be intentionally and deliberately created and designed. Yes. If you aren't intentional and deliberate about it, just like the culture, you'll have a culture, but it won't be the one you're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay? So a culture will be built, workforce will be created. We have to be intentional and deliberate about what are the desired outcomes. So that's going to take some leadership up front. Someone's going to have to plant some flags and say, this is important to our career field. This is important to the desired outcomes that we're looking for. This is important to our customer base. We've got to be intentional and deliberate. That's kind of my first one. Mm-hmm. My second one aligns to your communication, which I wholeheartedly agree. And that is, we have to become compelling storytellers. Yes. Okay. I think the business, when we're talking about being successful and being influential, being able to move people from one course of action to another course of action, that influence perspective, it's simply the art of storytelling. When we talk about fair and reasonable pricing, that's a story to be told. Right. Other than full and open competition strategy. That's a story to be told. These are just elaborate stories, often elaborate, but this is simply storytelling. So the ability for our contracts professionals and our acquisition professionals to get in the habit of thinking about moving individuals' mind shifts, moving people's thoughts and perceptions, and influencing them is to embrace the concept of being able to tell highly compelling stories. My third, when you talked about compliance, I'm a believer in that as well. I just think compliance is compliance should be baked in. It shouldn't be an outcome in and of itself. Mm-hmm. We should just not show up doing non-compliant things. Therefore, so therefore, it's baked in. We shouldn't be focused on compliance. Right. Outcomes over compliance, okay? Right. Not to the detriment of or to exclusionary to compliance, but I just think, it's kind of like eggs in a cake. They're in there, okay? We shouldn't try to go look for them. They're in there. To bake the effective cake, you got to have the eggs in there. So outcomes over compliance. And then the last for me is, I'm a big motivations and incentives. That we can influence behavior. We can actually design the outcomes that we're looking for if we create and then align the motivations and incentives, whatever we use to influence behavior, to go left and right. If we can align those appropriately, then I think we can design and dial in exact outcomes that will be helpful and will be necessary in the future 2025.
So I want to touch on a couple of things that you said. So you said plant the flag, and I agree with that 100%. It's up to leadership to plant the flag on, here is what we need to do. Here's my vision. Here are our objectives. Here are our goals. But it's not enough to plant the flag. You got to wave it. You got to wave
Oh, I
it,
love
and you got to live it, man.
Yes.
You got to be out there. You know, I'm a big
Yes.
Caps fan, as you can see. I always think
Yes.
of Slapshot running around with his flag when we win, right? That's what you got to do. You got to keep waving that flag. As a leader, it's repetitious, but you got to remind people, this is our vision, this is our mission, this is what we're after, this is what you need to be doing, this is what I'm going to do for you. Notice I said, as a leader, you have to tell them what I'm going to do for you. How am I going to enable you, empower you, the resources? How am I going to prepare you to do this job and be successful at it? Even if that success means that we might stub our toe once or twice, because, you know, the big word, let's get that gorilla out there, innovation. We got to be better than this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. When people would say to me, oh, this is the way we've always done it, I would just go, oh, because don't tell me the way we've done it, tell me the right way to do it. We have to get this right. And more and more, and I go off the deep end on this topic, because more and more I think about how important it is to get it right. We have people's lives at stake. When you talk about the agencies that we serve, pretty much almost everyone is impacting people's lives.
Absolutely.
You know, even when you think that agency isn't doing something that really, you know, by their title, like when people say General Services Administration, they think, oh yeah, they buy pencil. No, they're putting in place schedules that impact the services that we at DHS, at DOD, et cetera, buy. Absolutely. They're a part of the team a lot of times. Absolutely. So there is nobody out there that's doing absolutely nothing. Whether you agree politically, whether an agency should exist or not, doesn't matter. They're all impacting our lives one way or another. They're either giving us something, doing something for us, or possibly taking our money, right? They're impacting your life, right? So that's extremely important. And when you think about government in that way, when you think about that everything that you do is influencing these missions, now you got to worry about how you get it done. Absolutely. And what are those outcomes? And one thing that I think we sometimes don't think about, speed. People like the word speed, and I'm going to use that word because a lot of people talk about the speed of the acquisition. I like to think of it of the efficiency of the process. Nice. The effectiveness and efficiency of the process. Not so much speed, because it should take as long as it needs to take, right? But it shouldn't take so long that, you know, I get a few extra gray hairs. There were procurements that I worked on that I actually, if I took a picture at the beginning and took a picture at the end, I had a few extra wrinkles and many more gray hairs, right? Because it taking so long. We gotta condense the process down, and we gotta make sure that we build in efficiency. None of this rubber stamping approaches. None of these extensive documentation drills going back and forth. People got to get around the table, talk about it, fix it. Open up. We're in the age of virtual. Open up the laptop and let's just collaborate and write the document together. Oh no, I'm gonna send it over to you. I got when you send it back. Oh well, wait a minute. I reread that paragraph. Come on, really? Yes, we got to get it right, but we also got to get it done. Yeah, and that is something that what was it? I used to say, I forget some of my old sayings, but one of the things is you got to get it done. If you don't get something done, how do you know what you got to fix? Yeah. If you do nothing, you accomplish nothing. I guess that's right. Procrastination doesn't, bad news doesn't get better with time. Slowing it down isn't going to make it any better. So let's move on, make a decision. And if it was the wrong decision, then we'll go back and fix it.
Yes, right. I agree 100%. I'm a big proponent of, and have talked many times about, contracting professionals get measured by what gets done, what crosses the finish line. We don't get participation trophies. There are no participation trophies in our business. It is about what gets done. I really like your idea of not only planting the flag, but waving the flag. The piece that I want to make sure that there's a connection to when we're waving the flag is, I don't think, and I ask for your opinion on this. I don't think we build, as acquisition contracting professionals, I don't believe we build our service for ourselves. No. Our service is a response to service providing, being in a service provider construct. What
Agreed.
do our customers, our user base, the consumers of our service, we build what they need, not what we want to have. I think it's a big distinction. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, definitely. That's what agile government is all about. You hear the phrase agile government, and you see,
Yes.
there's a lot of symposiums and people are talking a lot about agile government. That's exactly what agile principles are about, that you've got to involve the user, the person who ultimately is receiving that product or service and is going to use it. That's who has to be involved as you're building the solution, because they're the ones that know what they need. And I'm not knocking us that sit up here in DC, although I should. We don't have all the answers. The answers are sitting with the person banging on the keys, the person that's delivering the water, the person that's rescuing somebody. That's where the answer lies. And so you're going to build something for them, be it a contract, a service, a system, a software system, whatever it is. You got to bring them to the table, and you got to bring them to the table, and then you got to build in pieces. I've always, we used to call it modular contracting.
Right.
So how old I am. Now people, they say iterative. Iterative is modular in another name, right?
Absolutely.
It's about building in small pieces. You know why you build it in small pieces? This is a true story, by the way, because this is how I do things, right? You build it in pieces so that you're testing as you go along, because then you know what broke.
Yes.
If I wait till the end to figure out if it works, I don't know what broke along the way. But if I'm building it in pieces and I'm testing as I go along, I know this thing works. Okay, that's not a problem. Now let's try this. Oh, that worked. Not a problem. Wait, here on this piece, we ran into a problem. This is the thing we probably got to fix, and how it's impacting the others. So it is extremely important. And I'm simplifying it. There's some scholar out there that's probably going to say, geez, could you make it any more simple than that? Not but my point is that we do have to think in basics, right?
Yes.
It's the same way. If you're building a house, you pour the foundation. You got to test that foundation and make sure you poured it properly. Because you want to put the whole house together and then find out your basement leaks. I mean, these are these things are like common sense. And that's what we got to get back into our business. We can't let regulations make us think that we can't have common sense. You can. We just have to do it within the confines of the rules. And that's why we, the procurement community, the contracting professional, that's why we get paid the money that we get paid. That's why we get the training that we get, because we have to figure out how to take these regulations, this body, the intent and spirit of these regs, and make it work and deliver those outcomes that our customers deserve. And then the last thing I want to say, leaders. We're not window dressing. We could try to be,
right,
but we're not. We need to understand what we're asking our people to do. So we need to know cyber, and we need to know compliance, and we have to talk the talk and walk the walk, because these are the people are going to emulate what we tell them, right? They're going to emulate what we do. So you got to lead by example. I am a firm believer in the servant leader, and a firm believer that you lead by example. You roll up your sleeves. I used to say this to my staff all the time. I'd love to roll up my sleeves and get in there and negotiate that. I know there were a lot of times I really wanted to, like, let me.
Please let me.
Yeah, let me at it. Like, I have so many ideas. That's important. People feel that passion.
Absolutely.
And they respect that. They might not like it sometimes, when you're asking them the hard questions, but they appreciate that you care enough, that you get it, that you want to help them. So I think that leadership role is extremely important. It's going to become more and more important going forward in 2025.
Wholeheartedly agree, Soraya. Wholeheartedly. That leadership space is so important. I'm going to add one more aspect to the leadership space, and that is in the version of the future, in any version of the future, it's going to be technology adoption.
Yes.
Okay. And leadership is going to have to get out front, having the conversations about augmenting our community in lieu of replacement. Because some people are taking the RPA, robotic process automation, AI, machine learning, natural language processing. They're taking these tools and they're having conversations, or these theories and concepts, and adopting them to the acquisition environment. And they're having conversations, or at least they're letting conversations go without taking them out, about replacement. This is not replacement. The analogy that I love using, which at least the best one that I've come to, is the concept of Iron Man. Okay, when you think about Iron Man, there's still a person inside the suit. Okay, the suit just enables us to do way more things. It allows Tony Stark to do amazing things, fly around and shoot stuff out of his hands, all kinds of stuff. I think technology adoption and all of these new technologies that are available to us to be deployed in the acquisition environment, these are just Iron Man suits for the contract specialist, contract officer, program officials. These are Iron Man suits, and we need leadership to help, okay, to help get away from this concept of, oh, you're gonna lose jobs, and you're gonna lose stature, and you're gonna lose power and position because these new things are gonna be running in the background. The bots are just gonna be out running around doing stuff. I think it's a enhancement conversation over replacement.
I agree. Leaders have to embrace technology. They have to embrace, how do we promote efficiency? I said speed earlier, right? Because that's the word that people like to use. I like efficiency and effectiveness. Those tools enable us to be more efficient and more effective. They really do. It enables us to get more data and churn that data much quicker and use it to create those tools that we need for decision making. That's what those tools do. RPA gets rid of tedious tasks for us. It helps us manage those tedious tasks so that we're freed up to think. And the first people that could use those tools are the leaders. Really, we are. We got to lead by example. And so I love what you're saying. I agree. That's what I'm saying. Leaders, you got to walk the walk. You have to be the lead contract specialist. I hate to say that way, but it really is.
It's true.
We got to be up there, standing up there, rah, championing all these tools and embracing all these tools and resources that we can use. I did want to bring up one last point, and this one, I know this is worthy of a whole conversation in another episode or 2 or 3. Performance evaluation.
Yeah.
I can't let that go. You got to give people feedback, and you got to give people feedback just in time. And the performance evaluation systems that we use, and I don't want industry to go, oh yeah, we're great at it, because they do it too. I've seen some of it. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them do it too. You got to give just in time feedback. You can't wait 6 months or a year. Now you do midterm. Everybody's pushing the midterm. That's 6 months later.
Yep.
Right? No, you got to set, excuse me, those performance standards up front and expectations. You got to set them in conjunction with the employee. You should be asking the employee, what do you do? How would you look at you? What a novel question.
Right.
How would you evaluate you? Right. Yeah. So you gotta set those standards up front, and then you got to give regular recurring feedback. You can't wait 6 months to a year. That's like no bueno. It's not going to happen, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Telling me 6 months later you screwed something up, 6 months ago. Right. No bueno. Talk to me in the moment that it happens. And that means that leaders have to dedicate time to be with their employees. Yeah. That supervisors and managers, this has to happen in the entire chain. And you have to ask feedback of your employee. And you're always going to like the feedback. It's okay. I have a couple of employees say to me, I think you're a pain in the neck. Okay. I think I'm a pain in the neck too. It's fair. You got to get the feedback.
Yes.
When somebody says, I wish you wouldn't ask me these kinds of questions, or I'm uncomfortable when you approach me in front of my supervisor, if I'm briefing you. And I have feedback like that. I go, okay. Got it. You're uncomfortable with that. So I learned to modify my style, but you take this feedback. That's development and growth.
Yes.
But we have to be more intentional about giving that feedback. And when you give feedback, I had a boss who used to say this, and I learned this from him, and he wasn't like one of my better bosses, but this feedback, man, he was right on the money. He said, you got to tell both what they did wrong and what they did well. You can't just bring somebody and say, oh, we're wonderful, you walk on water.
Yeah.
Agreed. When I have bosses tell me, Soraya, you're wonderful, walk on water, I go, come on, really? There's something there. There's a little curly on you, because I know me. I saw him. I looked in the mirror. I know.
Yeah.
If I was evaluating me, I know what I would say. So it's extremely important that we're very honest. And that doesn't mean that there aren't employees that are great and perhaps you do feel they really are wonderful. But think about making sure that you're telling people what they need to improve upon. It's not about telling what they did wrong, but what they need to improve upon.
Yeah.
I always ask that question. What do you think you need to work on?
Yeah, I like
What do you
that.
think I need to work on?
I like
Right?
that.
Because that's extremely important.
Yeah.
And if we can get that kind of thinking going on in the performance evaluation system, and many people have talked about it, and yes, we're going to measure and all that good stuff, but that conversation is so critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Soraya, I think you can draw some parallels to our business. When we sit down and we wrestle acquisition strategies and contracting approaches, we have to ask tough questions, but the result of the asking of the tough questions and the feedback on the ideas, the idea elevates. Okay, so that's the same thing when you're dealing with the workforce. It's asking and addressing the rough edges, because the more you do that, the higher polished it gets. Every time it gets better and better. That's where the learning occurs.
And it will build trust, right? Yes, there are going to be some people that you're just never going to get through to them, but those are the few and far between. Generally speaking, what I have found is it does build trust, that when folks are actually honest with each other and they're really doing it for the right reasons, it does build a stronger team, a stronger workforce. You learn to respect one another. And when a team is cohesive, they really trust each other and they work well together and they get along, even when they disagree, they're far more productive.
Oh, yeah.
Watch those teams. It is those teams where the individual can still come to the table and unite with the team and accept the differences in each other. Accept that I don't always agree with you, or you're not always going to agree with me, or you're going to say this is, this goes this way and this one goes that way. It doesn't matter. When they come to the table and respect one another, they're going to be far more productive and far more successful. That has been what I have always seen.
Yeah, me too. There's literally nothing that team can't do.
Exactly.
So Soraya,
I knew we were hitting that time.
This is like no other, like every other episode. It's like we have more things to talk about and less time. Thank you so very much. Let's do our nuggets. We always, I think that's worthy even for this special episode. Let's do a nugget. What do you have for a nugget? You thinking about future 2025 and focuses primarily on the workforce. What's the nugget?
My nugget would be, think about what you want to see that workforce achieve. Empathy. In other words, use the word empathy. Put yourself in those shoes and think about, how do I want that delivered? I'm going to be my customer. What am I looking for? Right? My successes, where I was successful, was a lot of times because I put myself in the other person's shoes, because I sat down and said, what do they want out of me? What are they looking for? How do I enable them to achieve their objectives? And the moment you start thinking about that customer that you serve, you're going to be successful.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I'm going to take a slight twist on the leadership piece that we were talking about. We often put a lot on the shoulders of our leaders, but the individual has a role to play too. They are the eyes and ears, the boots on the ground that sees change and demand from our customer base firsthand. Those individuals, boots on the ground, contract specialists, contracting officers, acquisition professionals on the program side, don't be afraid to identify, to observe and identify the thing that needs evolution attached to it. That there has to be a better way to do this. And then encourage your leadership to come along. Sometimes leadership happens from the bottom. It doesn't always happen. Definitely. It doesn't always happen from the top.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's fantastic. But you have to be accepting of rejection as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Right. You have to understand that sometimes things happen for a reason, and leaders just have to explain why.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Okay. And with that, we have our special episode, our GCMS episode in the tank. I am first, thank you, Soraya, for taking this journey with me. And I am looking forward to the live question and answer that comes after the episode. So I hope something in the episode has sparked your attention, captured your attention, sparked an idea, and that you are ready to come to the live and let's bring it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Any last
I'm
words?
excited. I'm
All right.
excited about being at GCMS. I'm excited about being there in person. I plan on being there in
Yeah, me
person.
too.
So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person as well. So I hope folks will join us there, and I hope the conversation will be enthusiastic. I think it is. Anytime we talk about workforce, it's always an exciting topic.
absolutely. And with that, thank you so very much. All
Thank
the
you.
best.
See you.
Okay, bye-bye.